Anastasia has 12 years of experience working in the field of speech and language pathology, and for the past 7 years has been working in the capacity of assistive technology facilitator. Anastasia's experience includes working in public schools, private practice, and skilled nursing facilities. As an AT facilitator at Infinitec, she works closely with districts, administrators, and special education teams to enhance team capacity and ensure the effective implementation of AT and AAC. Welcome, Anastasia. And I'm Linda, your webinar facilitator. I'll be behind the scenes making sure that everything runs smoothly, as well as interacting with you in the chat. So let's get started.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope you're all safe on this very, very cold day. I hope you're all staying at home. Hello, excited to be here as well. Thank you all for coming. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump into our webinar today. Today, we're talking about Google applications and extensions to support executive function. So executive function is a very big topic and we have a lot to go through. But hello, everybody, and thank you so much for using the chat. Please feel free to put any comments, questions. I will be looking at the chat periodically as well. All right, to start with, I would like to share this QR code. Please use it and see if you can get access to all of the slides. There will be a lot of resources available with different hyperlinks. So please feel free to use the resources. I'm going to stay here for a second so everybody can use the QR code. And if later you would like to add that too, I will share that with Linda, so she will have access to the slides. So if in the future you'll decide to access the slides again, feel free to reach out to LTC. All right, I hope everybody got access and we will move on. So today's training is brought to you by Infinitec, and it's actually also supported by ISB. We do receive grants, and we love to talk to people across the whole state. And again, thank you for being here with us today. So we have 4 different outcomes for today's webinar. To start with, we will define the SETT framework. Whenever we are thinking about technology, we need to really know the students and what it is that we're trying to help them. So we will go over that framework. We will also talk about executive function, all of the different processes and skills that fall under that, and hopefully have a clear understanding of what is EF, what is that about. We will also go over different technology tools. We will have some for organization and planning, and then we will also talk a lot about initiation and completion. Usually these are the skills and areas of executive function where we see the most difficulties that our students experience. All right. Now, what is executive function? There are a lot of different definitions, and if you Google what is executive functioning, you will get a lot of different definitions. And really, I would like you to look at those and think, which one do you feel most familiar with or most comfortable with as far as using this as a definition of executive functioning? The idea behind all of these definitions is that it's not just one thing, it's a set of processes or the set of skills, whether they are cognitive or functional skills. It's a set of different abilities and skills. And really, we know that these skills affect everything we do on a daily basis. So if we think about executive functioning, we can describe it as the management system of the brain, because we have so many different skills that are involved in setting goals, planning, getting things done, right? So when people struggle with executive functions, it impacts them not only at school, not only with academics, it impacts them at home and just in life in general. And so some interesting points about executive function is that some skills are interrelated, and they really have to do with managing emotions, controlling behavior, focusing, thinking flexibly, right? We have a lot of executive function skills that are associated with achievement, health, economic stability, and so on and so forth. We know that executive function skills can be improved with practice, but at the same time, it is not easy to generalize those skills. So I may be able to do something in one setting, but it does not mean that I can do it in another setting. Um, and again, using a structured process to solve real life problems is an effective way to practice and build those skills. So how do these skills impact our everyday life? And there is a lot of connection with autism, ADHD, learning disability, behavioral disorders. So there's a lot of things that are going on with our students. And while executive function isn't academic in nature, it does not have to do with math or reading skills, but it is affecting those skills because you need to focus while reading, right? Or you need to focus and remember. You need to have memory to remember different math facts so that you can solve those equations. And so it affects our students not only at school, but it also affects them at home as well. All right, and let's hope this video will...
Executive dysfunction is such a bizarre phenomenon to explain to people who don't have it.
I want to do the task. I'm tired of not doing the task. In my brain hole is like, do the task, just do the task. You're anxious because you haven't done the task.
But alas, I cannot.
All right, so the main idea of this little clip is make sure that you sympathized with our kids and students and other people who have executive functioning difficulties, because it's not that they do not want to do certain tasks, right? It's just something that impedes them from doing it. All right, moving on. Executive functioning can be seen as people don't know where to start, right? Like the example here, we have a sink full of dishes and we kind of every time pass by and I know I need to do the dishes. It's just so much. Where do I start? Not knowing how to start, requiring somebody else to like give a hint. Come on, let's go. Sometimes we have difficulties expressing emotions that are felt, and so then that affects our behavior. We can shut down and unable to filter what is important to focus on and what's not important. So there are a lot of different ways how executive functioning can be manifested and in different behaviors. All right. So what executive functions are? There are actually a few of them. So there is one called inhibition, cognitive flexibility, emotional control, initiation, working memory, planning and organization, organization of materials, and self-monitoring. So we have 8 different areas, and each of those has sub areas kind of thing. So when we're thinking about executive function and technology, right, we want to help our student. And so we are thinking about what technology can we offer? Well, before we think about the technology, we need to really identify which of these processes our students struggle with. And so we do not start with the technology, rather we are thinking about the problem itself and then how to solve it. If we start with the technology, then it becomes a solution looking for a problem. And often enough, we offer tools that are not effective because they are not really targeting the area of struggle and need. So how do we find out what our students really struggle with? So this is where we start talking about the SETT framework, right? So that was our first objective and our agenda today, SETT framework. it's great to use this framework whenever you're getting ready for an IEP meeting or just thinking about any kind of evaluation. The idea behind it is that it is a team approach. We're all working together, and we really need to understand what students are able to do, what their needs are, how the environment impacts them, what kind of tasks they need to do or will need to do, and only then we can get to the tools. So we're going to break it down. So it is a team approach, and we start with the student. And when we talk about our students, we really need to focus on their strengths and abilities, because we're going to use that to build on, right? So we need to know, okay, well, maybe my student struggles with reading, but auditory comprehension is amazing, right? So we can use that strength to then figure out how to solve the other problem. Then we need to talk about the special needs, what it is that they really struggle with, and we'll break it down. We're thinking about the present level of their achievements, so that's part of the IEP, or just again, like what it is that they are capable of doing independently. And then we're thinking about any kind of evaluation results that we have. And most importantly, we're thinking about student expectations, their age. We need to know what age they are, what is the next year looks like for them. Are they transitioning to vocational program? Will they have the amount of support that they have now, or do we need to think ahead about that? So we really need to think about what it is that our students can do, and then really define their needs. All right, next we're thinking about the environment. And again, sometimes we have to think outside of what's here and now, because, okay, we have our students in schools, and that's one environment, but we also need to include the home environment or any other extracurricular activities they are doing and other places they are visiting. If they are going into the community, right? We need to think about that and what kind of barriers they have there, and then what kind of supports they require. We need to think about the arrangements and the materials and equipment and how can they use it, because it's easy to use some of the AT tools when we're sitting at the desk, but then if we are at the playground, right, it's not as easy. So then we have to think about the access issues. And then, of course, attitudes and expectations. So who is going to support, who is going to encourage and help our students use the tools that we eventually will suggest. So all of these things need to be considered before we suggest the tool, because if there is nobody to support our students, we need to make sure that we find a tool that is user-friendly and that they can manage on their own. All right. So moving on, we're talking about the tasks. So what kind of tasks our students are required to do? Again, we're thinking about all of the settings. Is it at school? Is it at home? Maybe they have some kind of vocational goals. So we need to think about various things that our students are required to do, and where exactly we're seeing the gap. What can they do independently again, and where is the gap? So as you can see, we're still talking about the students, right? So a lot of information will come from that very first tab, the student, right? We're still talking about them, and we're analyzing their skills and the tasks that they need to do. Because honestly, when we are offering an assistive technology tool, it is given to help them in this specific task, right? So they're having difficulties decoding, so we will target that particular area of need. So we need to know what area we need to support. And so then we also need to think about the task demand, right? Perform this task demand analysis and really break it down. Is it the physical need? Do we have students who have physical needs? Maybe they're in the wheelchair, so we have to consider about the access to the tool, right? Do we have any cognitive skills that they are struggling with? So then we need to make sure that we address that area as well. Linguistic, okay, so language, are they able to communicate or understand the language we're using? Maybe we need to break that down. Sensory, if we're thinking about the tools, sensory needs are important. Maybe some students have problems activating devices with their fingers, so we need to kind of find a different tool for the access. Attention, again, attention plays a huge role in everything we do. Are they attentive to that tool? And then effective, do they actually like it? And that's very important and big for our students, especially as they get older. We need to consider their opinions about the tools we recommend and the usage. And so please do consider their opinions in that matter. And then also consider the environmental variables because things do change. So just kind of an example. So if we're thinking about reading and reading comprehension, if we really break it down, we're going to say, oh, they struggle with reading, but what exactly do they struggle with? There's so many different skills needed for the reading. Sustained attention, eye movement control. Maybe they have some kind of vision problem, right? Visually tracking the information, decoding skills, phonemic awareness, word recognition, vocabulary knowledge for comprehension, right? And being able to understand non-literal vocabulary. And then memory, retaining that information, being able to understand non-literal language. The big point here is prior knowledge, being able to associate what you're reading about and then associate with your prior knowledge and experiences and use that to comprehend the new information. And memory, right? So we need to, in everything, we need memory to be able to remember the letters, the words, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of things that our students are doing when they are reading. The same thing is writing. There are skills that fall under the executive function that are needed for writing, right? So again, attention, that's big for anything we're doing. Fine motor control, I need to be able to hold this pen, and then I need to know how to form those letters, how to, make sure that I able to manage the space. Eye-hand coordination, I still have to do that as well with the writing, know the direction of where I'm going. And then I have to think about what it is that I'm writing, right? I have to have ideas. I need to be able to formulate those sentences, put them in the organized, sequenced order, be able to know the grammar, being able to narrate more than just one sentence, right? Come up with those words as I'm formulating different ideas. And then if something isn't working, I need to be able to self-regulate instead of, throwing the paper or a computer out. And memory, again, is a skill that we need to have here too. So we have a lot that we need. And all of these skills fall under the executive functioning, and they are needed for effective writing skill. All right. So if we don't know what our students cannot do, we cannot give them a tool, because we need a tool to fix a need. So we need to know the need. And only then we can get to the tools. All right. So now as a team, we consider different technology, no tech, low tech, high tech options. And again, all of these options will be decided based on the information we get from, as we discussed, the student, the tasks, the environment. All right. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm periodically checking it, so feel free to chat with me. All right, so now let's go over all of these executive functions and really break them down. And then we will also think about what tools could be used for that specific skill. All right, so we'll start with inhibition. What is inhibition? It's, the ability to control yourself and being able to suppress attention or automatic response. So the analogy here, you can see the picture of all of the desserts. Now, can you stop yourself from that, from grabbing that dessert? So people who are on diet, are they able to control themselves and really stick to the diet? Now, if we're thinking about the academic world, we have a lot of students who are impulsive. They cannot wait for their turn, or they cannot maintain focus because something moved over there. They saw the shadow, so now they're looking there and they're not paying attention to the teacher, right? Or if something isn't working, but they are still doing it the same way. And so they're persistent in that instead of thinking outside of the box, and they cannot stop doing this activity in the way that is not necessarily working. So if you have students like that, that means that they have difficulties with inhibition and the ability to control themselves. What do we do? So there are some self-monitoring apps, and like we said in the previous slide, the executive functioning skills with practice can get better, but they don't always generalize, right? So this is one of those skills that we probably will need to practice with our students in different settings, doing different activities. So there are different timers. Timers always help our students to focus and stay on task, and it can also reduce stress. And there are different apps here that you can use, different timers. You can use student interest to use the timers. Start small. So let's say we're going to work on this, activity for 5 minutes, and then we are increasing. As we're getting better, we are increasing. Now try to use those timers throughout all of the different settings so that it becomes more of a habit. And again, we are practicing that skill in various settings and helping with the generalization of it. And the other apps to help with inhibition are the goal setting apps. So all of these are hyperlinked, and you will be able to click on those. And there are YouTube videos. It will take you actually to YouTube videos with directions on how to use this. But students can really set their own goals and then also track them. All of these apps are kind of gamified. We live in a world where everything is a game. So this is also gamified. So when you're doing things, you're getting some kind of reward. So it helps you stop, from other distractions and really focus on what you need to do. Again, it's a good idea to start small. Maybe we're going to have 2-3 goals, and then we can make the more goals or more time-consuming goals. So maybe to start with, all we have to do is just make bed, brush teeth, take garbage out, right? And then we'll get to academics. But we need to make sure that we start teaching our students to set their own goals and then also track them and be responsible for their own goals. Cognitive flexibility. So that's the second aspect of the executive functioning, and that has to do with flexibility of mind, the ability to switch between tasks and demands, right? So things happen. We know a lot of students who struggle when things don't go based on the routine, and so that means that they have some problems with cognitive flexibility. So when we have difficulties shifting from one task to another, or from one situation to another, or again, we are doing the same thing and maybe we are getting the same result, but it's not the result that we want, but we're still unable to think differently, that's cognitive flexibility. Some other examples, if we're thinking about academic work, so categorizing objects in different ways, right? Maybe not just by color, but now we're going to do it by shape or by function. So being able to do different tasks, being able to transition between activities, especially ending a preferred one and then doing non-preferred activity. Perspective taking, that's a big one for our students. Being able to take somebody else's perspective, being able to think as others, right? And not just think about their own personal feelings. And that's a big one, and that affects a lot of our kids and then manifested in emotional or behavioral outbursts. And so then it can also be difficult for us to adjust behavior accordingly, right? I'm talking to my friends versus I'm talking to adults. Am I able to change the language? Am I using the slang and things like that? Being able to try something new. So being able to stop something that didn't work and attempt a new process. And then also accepting somebody else's view kind of goes with perspective taking, being able to accept somebody else's idea and that I'm not always right. I can listen to somebody else. Also being able to paraphrase. Like I have, as a speech language pathologist, right, I'm working with students, and if I do not understand them, they repeat the same thing the same way instead of trying to describe it, so that it would be easier to understand them. But they say the same thing without the ability of paraphrasing. And then also being able to adapt to plans, so change the plans and kind of go with the flow. So all of these fall under cognitive flexibility. So if you have students like that, what you could do with them, and there are a lot of different brain training apps. Again, everything is gamified, but the idea here is that there are games that require mind to think differently. Maybe it starts with sorting by color, but then you have exactly the same objects, but now you have to sort them by size or shape. Another one, Mental Up. It's again a brain training app which uses adaptive program to help our students grow, and so it includes some physical exercises. And so again, it's the whole body, brain and body type of thing. There is also an app that helps our students relax, because with the cognitive flexibility, and if they are unable to take somebody else's perspective, and just with the stress that comes with it, our students may have also problems sleeping. And so this app actually helps to relax. And we know how music help. I mean, there's a lot of research that music can help with different problems. And so this app is based on that. Feel free to use it. There is a free trial, and then a link also how to use it. Now that takes us to emotional control. And nowadays everybody is on high emotions, right? So the ability to stay calm, the ability to bounce back after something happened, right? Being able to let the disappointments out, away, and not let it all take over. So how do we deal with that? Some tools for self-regulation. We in schools, a lot of districts use the zone of regulation, so you can do that. That helps you to identify what emotion you have, right? Is it a big problem? Is it a small problem? So that can help. There are also some calming strategies, a lot of different YouTube videos that you can use for the breathing, yoga, move it extension, and then also different fidgets. Now, I will say that all of these things need to be practiced during the calm times, because by the time we are dysregulated, if this is when we're practicing these things, that's too much. That will just add to that emotional dysregulation. So but if we practice when we are calm, by the time when we actually need to use these skills, we know how to do it, so we don't need to worry about the logistics of it. And then really only then these tools can be effective. Journals, we can do digital journals or just hand, pen and pencil kind of thing. So these were found to be very effective for self-regulation. So try it with your students. Again, if physically it's hard for them to use the pen and pencil, then there are a lot of different digital journals that you can use and help. Book Creator, I will suggest, somebody asked what tools you could use for self-regulation. Book Creator to create a digital journal would be great, and really just put your emotions on paper. Social stories would be another way that would be proactive. So if we know that there are some changes that may affect self-regulation, or just in general talk about the self-regulation, the tools our students can use, we can do the social stories as well. And there are some links to that as well. All right, I'm just looking at the chat right now. So some people commenting that they're using YouTube timers. There's some apps here too. Okay, it helps them to get into a zone. Yes, thank you for sharing that. All right, somebody also shared that Forest app helps with the focus. Please go ahead. Yes, if you are using something, share here, because we are learning from one another. There are so many different tools. It would be great to hear what other people are using. All right. Yeah, safe seats. That's a great strategy too, right? Sometimes we need a moment to get together. So maybe have that safe seat where we can go a little crazy in a safe environment to pull ourselves together. That sounds great. All right. Now we're moving to initiation. So initiation is the ability to actually begin the task. I will say that I am guilty of struggling with this one in certain places. Like I know I have to write the report, right, or an IEP, and oh my gosh, I'm just procrastinating and putting it aside. Or I have a cat cleaning that litter box. Oh my goodness, it takes only less than 5 minutes, but yet just to go and do it. So it's really hard with initiation, and our students struggle just like us. And therefore we keep reminding our students, you need to do this, right? Those daily chores, or they ask for help because they just don't know how to start. So how do we do? What do we do for that? So we can have charts: get ready, do, and done. It's nice if you also have pictures of what does it mean to get ready. Maybe there is a list of things you need to put together, or collect, or get. Then there might be a list of actual steps, so we can do a step analysis or task analysis and write it down. And then if you add how many minutes it actually takes, so the example I gave you with the litter box, when I realized that it literally takes me less than 5 minutes, I complain and think about it more than the actual task takes. I started doing it more often and not procrastinated as much. So, and then if we can look at and maybe take a picture, what does the final product looks like, and have a happy face that you are done and complete. So this is example of, okay, so getting ready for school. If you have young children, you know that sometimes it's just a chaos in the morning, right? But if we maybe have that list of what does it mean to get ready, you need your backpack, you need your lunch, you need your glasses, you need your shoes on, whatever it may be, and you have the picture. And then you can use that. Okay, so this is what you need to do. This is when you have all of these things and you match in that picture, then this is the done product and we are ready to go to school. So again, it takes practice, right? And with that, it will be easier to manage it. There are also academic planners. Now, this one is for the young elementary grades. Again, if you can see, there are certain times and descriptions, what exactly needs to be done, what materials are needed, and then what the final product kind of looks like. Is it in a drawer, or is it on a computer? So you can use this as a template for you to use with your students. And then there is also another one for older students, so it's a little bit more word based, but again, it helps with the planning. Then this one is a thinking time tracker. So again, you can think about it's an extension, Chrome extension, and again, it's just helping to plan things. Task management apps. Let me know if any, put it in the chat if any of you use any of these. So for older students, we have Todoist, Asana, Planner, or Trello. All of them are good, really. It's just as you practice with those, you can see which one you like better as far as the user friendliness or colors or just the visual setup. But it's you can do a lot of different things with those. For the elementary to 8th grade, my homework app is great, and then there's Timo and Perp. So again, we want our students to be independent in everything they do, right? To be independent, they need to be able to manage the tasks, plan their activities, and make sure that they can keep track of it. So somebody said that they're using Asana, and yes, and all of us, it's not just for our students. I'm hoping that maybe you will find something today that you will think like, oh, maybe I can use one of those apps. All right. Yes, initiation. Oh my gosh, Linda, I agree with you. Yes, that's my problem. And that's why I always do it when there is no more chance, right? The due dates, I live by due dates. All right. There is no more chance to put the thing away. All right, task analysis. Again, it helps us to really understand, well, is it really that bad? Okay, so I have a report. I really have just 3 paragraphs I have to write, right? So again, to go through this, and hopefully it can help you with not procrastinating. All right, now that takes us to the working memory. It's, I don't think I need to define that. Basically, being able to remember information. We need memory to answer questions when we read story, right? We need memory to take the test. If we engage in conversation, I have a horrible memory when it comes to the names. So I'm talking to people about somebody, and then I'm like, well, that person, right? So memory is important, again, not just in academics but in everyday life as well. So if we provide multi-step directions, our students may not be able to remember all of the steps. So think about breaking it down, making sure that maybe they see those visually, right? When we are doing math problems, well, there are always multiple steps. So we need to maybe provide some kind of tool that helps them with sequencing all of those steps. So how do you improve working memory? Again, when it's practice. It's not that we have a tool to fix the memory, but we have tools to help with memory. And Quizlet, Kahoot, I know I personally use Kahoot a lot, but all of these apps help with flashcards, or, it's gamified practice to remember different facts. And Padlet offers a whiteboard, and Padlet offers visual things, right? So you can put in the chat if you're using any of these. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat right now. So somebody also said Trello is a great one. Okay, thank you, Linda, to get started with the initiation process. All right, so yeah, feel free, please put everything you use. That would be great in the chat. All right, so then there's also insert learning. So this is also a Chrome extension. So if your students are reading something online, they can use that to make notes or annotate. And then when they come back to that website, those will be still there. Edpuzzle is another way to train the working memory. And we're moving on to planning and organizing. And that's huge too. And as we went over all of the other executive functions, right, planning and organizing kind of was part of all of that. So the ability to manage current and future tasks, right? It's not just about initiating, it's about planning the tasks, right? So we need to develop some kind of chart that would help us achieve those goals. So when we talk about planning and organizing, of course, we're talking about not only the ideas, but also the materials. And these are just fun facts. Did you know that Americans spend more than $4.36 billion annual on home storage and organization products? And yet we lose different items per day at least 9 times. I know I'm guilty. I'm losing my phone all the time. Now, the scary thing is I'm looking for the phone while I'm holding it, but, all right. So as far as organization, so of course we have different calendars. When we think about calendars and folders, think about color coding. Think about visual ways you could actually help your students and yourself organize different digital, but then also tangible things as well. So saving multiple tabs in Chrome browser. Now I am a person who has like 100 tabs on top, and then it takes me a while to find the one I need. So this video actually will teach you how to save multiple tabs. So let's say I'm working on this Abraham Lincoln project, and I'm researching, and I have all these different websites and resources open. But I can save them all and call it Abraham Lincoln Project, and then be able to close it. And when I need to, I can just click one tab and all of them will pop up again. So I'm not going to show it right now just to save the time, but if you click on the video, you will be able to see it and directions how to create that. Note Anywhere, similar to the other app or Chrome extensions, is you can take notes when you read in any digital material, and then even if you exit that website, the note will be there when you get on it again. So great for doing any kind of research. Google Keep, that also manages information. Again, if you click on this YouTube link here, you will see directions on how it is used. And again, information just stays there. If you annotate, it just stays there. More tools to help with the organizing thoughts and ideas to help you structure your assignments. So MindMeister and XMind. Again, all of these are hyperlinked. It will take you to YouTube videos to see how other people are using it. It's really just finding the app that you find user-friendly and that you like the visual setup. But there are a lot of different ways, and then apps start helping you, saying like, "Ooh, this project takes a little bit longer, then maybe you should do another one before." So it helps you come up with ideas of how to plan your assignments, considering the due dates and time consumption for each of the projects. Self-monitoring. All right, so this is big. Again, we cannot do anything without self-monitoring, right? We need to make sure that we monitor our performance, our emotions. For that, we need to make sure that we have flexible thinking, right? We are okay with all the ongoing processes. It's okay for us to switch from one activity to another. We have perspective taking and all of that stuff. And so it's not easy to reach that self-monitoring, but there are strategies that might work if we are able to actually move on and use them, right? But if we're using strategies that are not working and we're just having effort that is wasted, we're completing things late. So this is kind of a description of what you would see in students who struggle with self-monitoring. So how do we train that? Again, timers. I know we talked about timers in inhibition and initiation sections, but timers can help with self-monitoring too. Like, I'm going to give myself some time to, put myself together. Or I know I have to focus for this much time, and then I can, leave the room or leave the scene. So we should practice using timers for just in general. It's a great practice. And it helps with a lot of different issues. Again, goal-setting apps. So I may be sad or hyper or whatever, but I know I have this project due or this paper due. So I need to make sure that I pull myself together and focus and use this. So those goal-setting apps, because again, they are gamified and there are rewards. So that also motivates students to finish those so that they can put that check mark and say that, yeah, I did it. All right, so there are some tools specifically for writing organization, and such as graphic organization. Like we talked about writing, that it requires so many different things, right? So again, you have access to all of these. These are different graphic organizers. I may have troubles coming up with ideas, so graphic organizers can help me with that. I have troubles with sequencing ideas. Graphic organizers can help me with that. Even initiation. Well, maybe today I will just do one part of the graphic organization, right? Planning also, okay, now I have so many parts, I'm gonna do one every hour or every day or whatever it may be. So graphic organizers can help with a lot of different aspects of executive function that will lead to writing. Voice typing. Now, if we know our students struggle with actual physical typing, right, or using the pen and pencil, why not use voice typing? We talked about the task and demand, that analysis. So if I'm struggling writing, forming my letters, so instead of thinking about what it is that I want to say and formulate those ideas, I'm thinking about, oh, how do I spell that D? Is it this way or is it that way, right? So voice typing eliminates all these struggles, and then you can focus just on the ideas. And so then once everything is out, then we also can teach our students to edit their work, go back and figure out if everything was spelled grammatically correct, if sentences are structured in the right way, and if their ideas flow. So then we need to teach the editing part. But think about, again, that task analysis. Why focus on something that they struggle, where what is our main goal? We want to have the final result, right? The final product. Voice typing is a great way to support our students. All right. These are different speech to text ways. If you click on any of those, it will take you to more resources. So feel free to look into those. Anybody uses Moti? I'm curious to see. This is just another app that helps with writing. All right, I use Kahoot. Somebody said yes. I'm just going over booklets. Thank you. Thank you so much for all of your input. All right. So Notability, and that's a popular one at schools, right? So there is some access to different tools, whether to text. Again, if we're thinking that holding a pen and pencil is difficult for our students, we are all going digital. But don't think that if the digital is the answer to all. Sometimes it's better to use pen and pencil. And so this is where we should ask our students for their opinions as well. Orbit Note, again, it offers text to speech. Again, we want to minimize the areas where our students struggle physically or academically and really focus on the final goal. So with that said, if we may have at some point or another goal to actually write clear, maybe have a signature. So then we'll focus on that. So we need to always think, like, what is our goal at this moment? Piglet, so for students who struggle with word finding, right? So if we are writing, we need to come up with words. Also initiating, where do I start this, essay about this topic? So the Piglet helps you come up with the bank of words and different, it's not just nouns, it's different words, and hopefully help our students start and come up with ideas. Fun app to use. Now, we talked about all of the executive functioning processes and a lot of tools. And so the question is, who should use technology to support executive functioning skills? And really the answer is everybody. So we have two options, right? Is it a UDL, or is it for students who have official IEP and official diagnosis? And I'm hoping that today I will encourage you to think that the support for executive functioning should be offered to all of the students. It should be built in the classrooms so that it is part of your UDL, Universal Design for Learning, right? We do not want to identify students who have special needs, but we should think proactively and think all of our students may have some of these issues. Right now, I admitted to having some issues, right? Somebody else commented in the chat about their own issues. So if we know that initiation is a problem, staying focused is a problem, right? Organizing and planning may be a problem. Why not offer these tools from the get-go and then train students to use it? And then students who really need those will feel comfortable using it because everybody else does. And really, students who may survive without it and still be successful, using these apps may be even more successful, or it will simplify their life. And why not? That's not a problem at all. So the answer is everyone should be able to use the technology to support their executive functioning skills. All right, so ultimately, the goal of universal design is to support learners to become what we call expert learners. I shouldn't use it. We really want them to be expert learners who are independent in tracking their own goals, setting their goals, tracking their goals, who know themselves. They know how to be motivated. They know how to, be resourceful, what kind of learners they are. Are they visual, or do they need, auditory stimulation? So we want our students to be expert learners, know what they want, and achieve those goals. And so then technology can really help. All right. So what we also need to make sure that we help our students, right? So we decided on a tool, on an app, and let's just, for example purposes, we'll use calendar. We all use calendars, right? And we tell our students to use calendars. It does not mean they know how to start, where to start, right? Again, thinking about all of these executive functioning that are required to even use the calendar. So what we need to do is, when we introduce any kind of technology, we need to make sure that our students show operational competence. Do they know how to navigate it, how to turn it on, how to turn it off, how to use the different settings there, right? So that's number one. We need to teach just the logistics of any technology. Then we need to put it together with the functional competence. And functional competence means that I know what the function of this tool is. So I know my memory is bad and I do not remember some facts. So maybe I'm going to use my calendar to put the due dates, or I'm going to use notes to make, on my phone, on my iPad, to remember the name of the people I met today at the meeting. Or, so we need to make sure, like, what do we use it for? Okay, so I have a calendar. I know how to click it. I know how to add certain, events, but do I know when to use it? So that falls under the functional competence. Strategic competence, again, being able to think through the problems and know your own problems, and then being able to know, like, oh, well, for this task, I'm going to use this calendar. And for this one, I'm going to actually put a reminder, because I know that I may forget and maybe I need a couple of reminders. So then be able to use different strategies to make sure that you are successful. And then social competence, that goes to being self-advocate. So being able to stand up and come up to the teacher and say, I need this tool because I have this problem, and this tool helps me do my best work. This is not cheating. This truly helps me get my best work, right? And so that falls under social competence. Any questions about any of that? Let me just look at the chat right now. All right, How We Feel is an app that helps you to pinpoint complex emotions. Oh, I didn't use that one, so I will definitely look into that. Thank you. Magic. Oh, yes, Magic School. There are a lot of AI tools. Right now, AI is big. Yes, so thank you for sharing that, Jim. Yeah, so even for us as, educators, we have a lot on our plates, and Magic School has a lot of things that helps. And honestly, I'm using ChatGPT all the time nowadays just to help me with writing emails, making sure that everything is grammatically correct, and things like that. But Magic School has way more things to do. Yes. Yeah, for sure. All right. Thank you all for all these exciting ideas and products that you use. So for this presentation, I have a list of additional resources. Please feel free to browse through them. And again, everything is hyperlinked. And this is a UDL project. We talked a little bit about the UDL, but it actually, in some districts, it's really big, because we know that all students come, they're all different. We know they come from different backgrounds. We know that they come with different prior knowledge. So we want to make sure that we are taking proactive approach rather than reactive, and help our students be successful. So look into this UDL project. SETT framework, we went over it at the very beginning, and this is just another description of how it works and to help you set it up in your schools. And then, of course, we need to be SOPA compliant. So this is some information. Everything I shared today, I believe, is SOPA compliant, but double check. It's always better to double check. All right. And then there is just another resource. This is with assistive technology. So you can look into some other assistive technology resources. And with that, I'm a few minutes early, but please let me know if you have questions. This is the time to answer questions or ask questions and also share any other ideas. And yes, I'm going to take back to the first slide. Let me do that.
So like we said, we're still open for any questions. We still have a few minutes here, but I am going to go through some items of housekeeping just to finish up today's broadcast. First, just thank you so much, Anastasia and to Infinitec, for being here today and sharing all these amazing resources. There are so many resources in this presentation, so make sure that you grab this QR code or grab the link in the description. All right. Well, if there's no more questions in the chat, I feel like we're like 1 minute from being done, and we should give people the gift of time, even if it's 1 minute. So what do you say? Want to shut it down here?
Yeah, this is your last 5 seconds.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
The timer is on.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we will see you for the next webinar. Again, thank you so much for joining us. To everyone in the chat and everyone who is watching live, and Anastasia, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you.